There's a government agency in the United States whose entire job is teaching people to speak foreign languages. The Foreign Service Institute. It's trained American diplomats for over 70 years. And over that time, it has measured exactly how long it takes an English speaker to reach professional fluency in language after language. The results are not equal. Some languages take their students around 2,200 hours to master. Others take as few as 600. That's nearly a 4-to-1 gap between the hardest languages on earth for an English speaker and the easiest. Now, easy is a loaded word, and we'll deal with that in a second. But if you speak English and you want to learn a second language with the wind at your back, there are 5 consistently that come out ahead. Not because they're simple, none of them are, but because they start you closer to the finish line than anything else. These are the 5 easiest languages to learn if you already speak English. Welcome to the Airlearn Language Show. This is probably the most practical video we've ever made because by the end of it, you might actually have picked your next language. And whichever you choose, the thing that decides whether you succeed isn't talent. It's whether you stick with it past the first few weeks. That's the whole reason I keep recommending Airlearn. It's built to get you through the fastest, most natural path, so you actually keep going. If a language has been on your mind, the link is in the description. But before the countdown, we need to be clear about what easy even means, because this is the kind of list that starts arguments. How we're measuring this. Easy does not mean simple, and it absolutely does not mean lesser. Every language on this list is rich, complete, and capable of expressing anything a human being can think. When we say a language is easy for English speakers, we mean one specific thing. It's close to English. Close in vocabulary, close in grammar, close in sound, or close in the alphabet it uses. The less distance there is between English and your target language, the less you have to learn from scratch. And that closeness is not the same for everyone. This entire list is built for English speakers. If your first language were Arabic or Japanese or Tamil, the list would look completely different because easy always depends on where you're starting from. A language that's hard for an English speaker can be effortless for someone whose native tongue is its cousin. So this isn't a ranking of good languages versus bad ones. It's a map of which languages sit closest to English measured 2 ways. 1, the FSI's hard data on how many hours each takes to learn, and 2, how much vocabulary, grammar, and sound each one shares with English. With that said, let's count down. Number 5, Dutch, the closest cousin. Dutch is the closest major language to English on the entire planet, closer than anything except Frisian, a small language in the northern Netherlands that's almost English's long-lost sibling. English and Dutch are both West Germanic languages. They split from the same ancestor relatively recently, and it shows. Enormous amounts of vocabulary line up almost exactly. Water is water. Hand is hand. Milk is milk. Book is book. House is house. You can read a simple Dutch sentence and guess your way through a surprising amount on day 1. And the grammar is far gentler than its cousin German. No intimidating case system, word order that mostly feels familiar. The catch is pronunciation. Dutch has a throaty G, that scraping sound in the back of the throat that English speakers find genuinely hard, plus a few tricky vowels. The FSI categorizes Dutch as Category 1 language, taking around 600 class hours to reach professional fluency. In a sense, Dutch is what English might have looked like if 1066 had never happened. Number 4, Norwegian, the Viking inheritance. If you want a Scandinavian language, Norwegian is the one to pick. One of the 3 big ones, Norwegian, Swedish, Danish, Norwegian is widely considered the most approachable for English speakers for 2 reasons. First, its grammar is remarkably simple and regular. Verbs barely change form. Sentence structure feels intuitive to an English brain. Second, and this is the fun part, English and Norwegian already share a deep layer of vocabulary, courtesy of the Vikings. When Norse settlers poured into English 1,000 years ago, they left hundreds of words behind. So a lot of core Norwegian still rhymes with English. Hus is house, winter, winter. The word barn means child related to the Old English word bairn. The spelling is consistent and the pronunciation is gentle. Norway has two written standards, but the common one, bokmål, is easier and more widely used. Norwegian is considered one of the easiest languages for English speakers, typically grouped with Category 1 languages at around 600 class hours. In a real sense, you already speak a little Norwegian. The Vikings made sure of it. Number 3, Portuguese, the underrated giant. Now we move into the Romance languages, the descendants of Latin. And here English speakers have a hidden advantage because so much of English formal vocabulary came from Latin through French. Portuguese is the most underrated language on this list. It opens the door to over 260 million speakers across Brazil, Portugal, and parts of Africa and Asia. Brazilian Portuguese in particular is welcoming to learners, open, clear vowels, a warm musical rhythm. The grammar follows predictable Romance patterns, and the vocabulary overlaps heavily with English through shared Latin roots. Possível, natural, important. You barely need a translation. The one real challenge? Portuguese has nasal vowel sounds made partially through the nose that don't exist in English and take some getting used to, especially in the European variety. The FSI rates Portuguese as Category 1 language at around 600 class hours. Portuguese might be the best value on this entire list. Number 2, Italian, the instant reward. Italian might be the most rewarding language to start with because it gives back so fast. Here's why. Italian stayed unusually close to Latin, and English absorbed enormous amounts of Latin vocabulary over the centuries. So a huge share of Italian words are nearly transparent to an English speaker. Possibile, necessario, familia, importante. You can often guess the meaning the first time you see the word. On top of that, Italian has one of the most consistent spelling systems of any language. It's almost perfectly phonetic. Words are pronounced exactly the way they're written, with no silent letters or hidden traps. Reading and pronunciation click into place fast. The grammar is a little more involved than Spanish, a few more verb forms to learn, but the early payoff is so high that learners feel fluent faster than difficulty suggests. The FSI puts Italian at around 600 class hours in Category 1, with Spanish and French. Italian rewards you almost immediately, which is exactly what keeps people going. Number 1, Spanish, the one the world wants to teach you. And the easiest language for an English speaker to learn is the one you probably guessed, Spanish. But it earns the top spot for reasons beyond the obvious. First, the linguistics. Spanish pronunciation is highly phonetic, 5 clean vowel sounds. Words said the way they're spelled. The grammar, while different from English, runs on clear, consistent rules, and the vocabulary overlap is enormous. There's a reliable pattern where English words ending in chan become Spanish words ending in shon. Nation, nation. Education, educación. You can convert hundreds of words almost automatically. But the real reason Spanish tops the list isn't only the language. It's everything around it. Over 500 million speakers, more films, music, shows, and podcasts than any other language here. More people to practice with in more places than you could ever run out of. Because here's the truth about language learning. Exposure compounds. The more of a language that surrounds you, the faster you absorb it. And no language is more available to an English speaker than Spanish. The FSI rates Spanish at around 600 class hours, 24 weeks, the easiest category for English speakers. Spanish isn't easy because it's simple. It's easy because the entire world is set to help you learn it. Now, one more thing, because it's the most important point in this whole video, and it's the thing those FSI hour counts can't measure. Those numbers assume perfect conditions. Full-time study, a classroom, total focus. Real life isn't like that. And in real life, the easiest language to learn is almost never the one that's technically simplest. It's the one you'll actually stick with. The one you're motivated to learn, the one you have a reason to use, a partner, a trip, a family connection, a culture you love. A harder language you're passionate about will always be an easier one you're bored by, because the real enemy of language learning isn't difficulty, it's quitting. So treat this list as a starting point, not a rule book. If Spanish or Italian calls to you, you've got the wind at your back. But if your heart is set on Japanese or Arabic or anything far down the difficulty scale, don't let a ranking talk you out of it. Motivation beats proximity every single time. 5 languages. Dutch, the closest cousin. Norwegian, the Viking inheritance. Portuguese, the underrated giant. Italian, the instant reward. And Spanish, the one the whole world is ready to teach you. None of them are easy because they're simple. Every one is a full, rich language with its own real challenges. They're easy for one reason. They start you close to where you already are. 1,000 years of shared history, borrowed words, and common roots mean that when an English speaker sits down to learn them, they're not starting from zero. They're meeting a relative they've never been introduced to and realizing they already understand more than what they thought. Whichever one you pick, even if it's one that didn't make this list, the principle is the same. The best language to learn is the one you'll keep showing up for. Airlearn is built to make showing up easy. Pick your language and start. Links in the description. See you in the next one.